The envelope sat on my kitchen counter for 3 days before I opened it. I told myself it was stupid. Paranoid. A pointless piece of paper that would prove I was losing my mind. My son was in the living room building a crooked tower out of blocks, talking to himself the way he always did. Every few seconds he'd yell, "Dad, look!" And every time I looked. For 7 years that was my life. Wake him up for school. Make dinosaur-shaped pancakes on Saturdays. Sit through fevers, nightmares, birthday parties, and endless cartoons. His mother, Hannah, and I had been together almost 10 years. We weren't perfect, but we were a family. At least I thought we were. I opened the envelope because I couldn't stand hearing my own heartbeat anymore. Probability of paternity 0%. I read it once. Then again. Then again. My first thought wasn't anger. It was confusion so violent I actually checked the name on the paper. Mine. His. And suddenly the whole house felt unfamiliar. Before that day, my life was ordinary in the best possible way. Hannah and I met when we were both broke and pretending adulthood wasn't terrifying. She laughed with her whole body. I loved that about her. We rented a tiny apartment with crooked windows and lived on cheap pasta and optimism. When she told me she was pregnant, I was scared out of my mind. But I was happy too. I remember sitting on the bathroom floor while she cried and laughed at the same time. I held her and said, "We'll figure it out." And we did. Or I thought we did. Our son was born early on a rainy November morning. I cut the cord. I held him first while Hannah was still exhausted and shaking. He wrapped his tiny hand around my finger, and something inside me permanently rearranged itself. There were small things I ignored. People said he didn't look like me. Different eyes. Different smile. Hannah always got weird when family joked about it. I told myself genetics are strange. I wanted to believe that. There were red flags, but they didn't look like red flags at the time. About 6 months before our son was born, Hannah had started acting distant. Not cold exactly. Just distracted. Protective of her phone. Sometimes she'd step outside to answer calls. I asked once, "Everything okay?" She smiled too fast. "Work stuff. Don't start." So I didn't. Back then I thought trust meant not asking too many questions. There was also her old friend, Marcus. He drifted in and out of our lives. They'd known each other forever. He was around enough to make me notice, but not enough to make me suspicious. He came to our baby shower. He brought diapers and expensive bourbon and hugged Hannah a little too long. I noticed. Then I ignored it. Because that's what love does sometimes. It edits reality until it becomes survivable. And once my son arrived, all my attention went to him. Midnight bottles. Daycare forms. Tiny shoes by the front door. I was too busy becoming a father to notice I might have been becoming something else. The suspicion started with a text message I wasn't supposed to see. It was stupidly ordinary. Hannah was in the shower. Her phone lit up on the kitchen table while I was cutting strawberries for our son, Marcus. That alone wasn't unusual. What I saw next was, "Does he know yet?" That was it. Just 5 words. My stomach dropped so hard I had to grab the counter. I didn't open the conversation. I just stood there staring like the screen might explain itself. When Hannah came out, I asked, "No what?" She froze. That tiny pause told me more than any confession could have. "What are you talking about?" she said. I held up the phone. Her face changed. Not guilty exactly. Terrified. "It's nothing." I laughed. Not because anything was funny. It was the kind of laugh your body makes when something inside it breaks. For the next hour she denied everything. Said Marcus was having personal problems. Said I was overreacting. But after that, something rotten started growing in my head. Once doubt gets in, it rewrites your memories. I started seeing things I'd buried. The way Hannah refused whenever I suggested family medical history forms at school. How defensive she got when my mother once said, "He has none of your features." The weird silence after. I hated myself for noticing. I hated myself more for wondering. For 2 weeks I barely slept. I'd watch my son sleeping and feel physically sick. Not because I loved him less. Because I loved him so much that the thought itself felt monstrous. I started comparing faces. His ears. His nose. His laugh. I became obsessed. One night I Googled home DNA test at 2 in the morning while sitting in the dark. I ordered it and deleted the browser history like I was cheating. When the kit arrived, I nearly threw it away. But then one Saturday morning, while Hannah was visiting her sister, I swabbed the inside of my son's cheek. He giggled. "Why are you doing that, Dad?" I said. "Science experiment." That lie still burns. The waiting was worse than the result. 3 weeks of pretending nothing had changed. 3 weeks of bedtime stories and school pickups while my chest felt packed with glass. I almost convinced myself I was insane. Then the envelope arrived. I opened it. Read it. And the world split. 0%. I actually said the words out loud because they didn't seem real. No. No, no, no. My knees gave out. I sat on the kitchen floor holding the paper like it might change if I stared long enough. My son walked in barefoot. "Dad?" I folded the letter so fast I almost tore it. "Yeah, buddy." "Why are you crying?" That destroyed me more than the test. I told him I was tired. He climbed into my lap and leaned against me. I remember thinking, how can this child feel exactly like mine while science says he isn't? I stayed there until Hannah got home. The second she walked in, I held up the paper. "What is this?" Her face went completely white. And then she started crying before saying a single word. "What did you do?" I asked. I don't think I've ever heard my own voice sound like that. Hannah sat down hard, like her legs stopped working. "It was years ago," she said. Years ago. That phrase made something inside me snap. "Who?" She covered her face. "Marcus." I remember backing away from her like she had physically hit me. "How long?" "It was only once," I yelled. "People don't accidentally make children once." She started sobbing. She said we were fighting back then. She said I was emotionally distant. She said she was scared and confused and thought the baby was mine because of the timing. "You never thought maybe you should tell me?" "I didn't know." "That's a lie." She shook her head so hard her hair stuck to her face. "I was afraid." Afraid. I had spent 7 years building a life inside a lie, and the word she chose was afraid. My son was upstairs asleep while downstairs our entire family was collapsing in whispers and broken breathing. That night I didn't sleep. I sat in the car until sunrise because I couldn't bear being inside the house. I kept replaying every birthday. Every scraped knee. Every Christmas morning. I remember teaching him to ride a bike. He fell, stood up, and shouted, "Again, Dad?" That word haunted me. Dad. What was I now? I felt anger so intense it scared me. But underneath it was grief. Pure grief. And shame. A terrible, humiliating shame I didn't know how to name. I didn't tell anyone at first. Not my parents. Not my brother. Not my friends. I couldn't stand the idea of saying it out loud and making it real. When I finally went back inside, Hannah was on the couch. "I'm sorry," she whispered. I looked at her and said, "I don't even know what I'm looking at." She cried harder. But I felt strangely empty. That scared me more than the rage. Because emptiness feels permanent. The next day I called Marcus. He answered like it was a normal afternoon. "Hey, man." I nearly lost control. "Did you know?" Silence. Then, Hannah told me. I could barely breathe. "You knew?" "I found out a few months ago." "A few months ago?" "He said he never wanted to destroy my family." I said, "You already did." He kept saying he wasn't sure. That Hannah asked him to stay away. That he didn't know what to do. I asked the only question that mattered. Is he yours? He didn't answer immediately. That was answer enough. When he finally said yes, I hung up. Later that night, Hannah begged me not to tell our son. He's 7, she said. He doesn't understand. I said, neither do I. Then she said something I still hear in my head. You're still his father. And that was the cruelest part. Because she was right. My family found out 2 weeks later. I didn't plan it. My mother came over and asked why I looked like I hadn't slept in a month. I broke. I told her everything. She cried. My father got quiet in that dangerous way he has. He said, leave her. Simple. Clean. Impossible. My brother was angrier. He called Hannah manipulative. Said Marcus was dead to him. Suddenly everyone had opinions about my life. What none of them understood was this. Leaving Hannah was one thing. Walking away from my son felt like amputating a part of myself. He still ran to the door when I came home. Still wanted me to check for monsters under the bed. Still climbed into my lap during movies. My family saw DNA. I saw the kid who once threw up on my shirt and cried because he thought I'd be mad. I wasn't trapped by her. I was trapped by love. And that made everything so much harder. Hannah kept trying to explain it in ways that somehow made it worse. It wasn't planned. I thought he was yours. I was going to tell you. I finally asked. When? She had no answer. Then came the part one didn't expect. She started blaming me. Not completely. Just enough. You were distant back then. You worked all the time. You stopped seeing me. I stared at her. So I deserve this? No, she said. That's not what I mean. But it was exactly what it felt like. For a while I almost believed her. That's the ugly part of betrayal. It doesn't just break trust. It makes you question your own memory. Maybe I had missed something. Maybe I had failed first. Then I'd remember 7 years. 7 years of watching me love that boy while she knew there was a chance. And the guilt turned back into anger. I moved into the guest room. The house became a museum of things we no longer knew how to touch. The hardest part wasn't Hannah. It was my son. He started noticing things immediately. Why wasn't Mom laughing? Why did Dad sleep downstairs? Why did everyone talk quietly when he entered the room? One night he asked me, "Are you mad at me?" That nearly broke me in half. I pulled him onto my lap. No. Never you. He nodded like he believed me, but kids know more than adults think. He got clingier after that. Nightmares came back. His teacher called to say he seemed distracted. I started having panic attacks. At work I'd forget simple things. I stopped answering texts. I barely ate. My therapist later called it traumatic destabilization. At the time it just felt like drowning in public. I looked normal enough to everybody else. Inside, everything was ash. And still every morning I packed lunches, tied shoelaces, and signed homework folders. Grief doesn't cancel parenthood. It just makes it heavier. 3 months later, Marcus asked to meet. I almost said no. But I went. He looked miserable. Older somehow. He told me he wanted to know his biological son. I felt heat rise through my whole body. Your biological son? He flinched. I'm not trying to replace you. I laughed so hard people turned around. Replace me? You think this is a job title? He said he regretted everything. He said he didn't want to hurt the boy. Then he asked if I'd consider slowly introducing him. I stood up. For 7 years he called me Dad while you disappeared. Don't suddenly act noble. He didn't argue. He just sat there looking ashamed. I should have felt victorious. I didn't. I felt exhausted. Because the truth was bigger than anger now. There was a child in the middle of this. And every adult in the room had already failed him once. That thought followed me home and kept me awake all night. Hannah and I separated 6 months after the test. No screaming. No dramatic ending. Just exhaustion. She moved into an apartment across town. We told our son we wouldn't live together anymore. He cried so hard he hiccuped. I held him while he asked if it was because of him. No, I said. Never because of you. That became my most repeated sentence. We still haven't told him the full truth. Maybe that makes me a coward. Maybe it makes me a father. I don't know. He spends half the week with me. I still make pancakes. Still check homework. Still know exactly how he likes the crust cut off sandwiches. Marcus has seen him twice. Carefully. Slowly. It was awful. Not explosive. Just quietly awful. Watching another man share your son's face is a kind of pain I didn't know existed. I smiled through it. Then sat in my car afterward and cried until I couldn't breathe out. It's been almost 2 years now. People think time turns tragedies into stories with lessons. It doesn't. It just teaches you how to carry them without collapsing in grocery stores. I still don't know what to call what happened to me. I lost a marriage. I lost the version of my life I believed was true. I lost the simple certainty of who I was. But I didn't lose him. That matters. He still runs toward me. Still asks me impossible questions before bed. Still reaches for my hand in parking lots without thinking. Sometimes I look at him, and the old pain hits like a punch. Then he smiles, and for a second none of biology matters. People ask if I regret staying in his life. Never. Not once. My only real regret is this. I trusted the wrong adult, and almost let that poison what I built with a child who never lied to me. I don't know how this ends. I just know tomorrow morning I'll make breakfast. And when he says, "Dad," I'll answer,